It is important to strive for excellence in everything you do. But what happens when excellence is no longer a goal, but a demand? Before you know it, your best is never good enough. You are gripped by perfectionism, and life is a stress-filled attempt to meet impossible standards. Join Dr. Townsend and discover a healthy way to do your best while becoming content with less than perfect.
Hi everybody, John Townsend here. Welcome to Solutions. Solutions is a ongoing video series where Henry Cloud and I basically unpack and develop and talk about issues that matter to you about life, relationships, love, marriage, dating, parenting, your own family of origin, success, careers, where you want to go in life, emotional struggles, your dreams, kind of that holistic area of life that everybody wants to do better in. And we think that the Bible has really good answers to that, solutions, and that good psychology and research and performance research backs up what the Bible says. And we hope it's a good, valuable thing for you. And like I always say, or like I say a lot, email us and say, hey, talk about this. I don't know anything that, I'm struggling with this, or I've got an idea here. Talk about this, because we're always open to new ideas and kind of interest and needs and that sort of thing. All right. I'm going to talk today about the difference between perfectionism and a striving for excellence, and how to move from, if you're stuck in a perfectionistic way and path and way of living, how to move towards excellence. Because, perfectionism's a trap. And it can get you not doing the things you want to do and accomplish the things you want to accomplish and feel like you want to feel. But you know what? A lot of perfectionists think the only option between perfectionism is we'll drop it all. Don't have any desire. Don't ever want to be excellent. So it's either, I'm going to run the company or I'm going to be lost. And no, that's not how it is at all. And God has a lot better answers for you than that. I have a friend who got married late in life. And she was a picky person in a good way. I mean, she had standards for the guys she married. But she got married, I think she was in her late 40s. And every time we would talk, because I'm always interested in my single friends and how are you doing? Can my wife and I set you up? And, kind of the matchmaker type. She would say, well, it's just my standards. My standards are just too high. Just, got to have a guy that's got these traits and these characteristics. I'm looking around for this. And we would have these interesting discussions about what that list was in her head. The guy's got to be have this sort of character and this sort of personality and these sort of interests and accomplish this much and look a certain way and the body type, somatotype, and all that. And she had her list. Everybody's got their list. And when, something would break down on a date, and then I'd say, well, what happened? How'd that crash and burn? It was because something happened and he didn't make the list. And she would always frame it as, I think my problem is that I really want, the right person. I've just got these excellent sorts of standards. And she kind of made it like guys are Neanderthals and they're all goofs. And since Neanderthals and goofs don't make her high standards, that's really a problem, because where is he? Mr. Right's not out there. And after a while, I said, I don't think it's a desire for excellence. I think it's just perfectionistic and unrealistic. And we had a little more heated discussion about that, because I was kind of challenging her on, this isn't about the right standards. You don't want to have anybody that has any faults at all. And I took her to a book that Henry and I wrote about dating, boundaries in dating. And there's a whole chapter in that book on what sins can you live with? What deficiencies can you live with? What problems can you live with? What weaknesses can you live with? Because in the dating world, everybody's got their list. And nobody has the list of, okay, here's the screw-ups I'll live with. They're slightly messy. Or sometimes they get in their head and they can't really connect emotionally. Or, sometimes they can be a little too aggressive and, speak too loudly or push too hard, or sometimes they're a little bit passive or whatever. Where's that list? And singles do this a lot, because I work with a lot of singles. And I'm telling you, if you don't have that list in your mind, you're going to wait way later than you wanted to wait. And you can always excuse it by saying, well, Ms. Wright's not out there. She doesn't meet the list, or Mr. Wright's not out there. But it's not because they're not out. Certainly those people aren't out there. Sorry. It's not because those people that don't make your list aren't out there. They're not. They don't exist. It's because you have perfectionistic issues and you don't have excellent standards. There's a very big difference between the two. So whether this is about dating, whether this is about your job, whether this is about your marriage or your kids or how in shape you are or what you want to do in your mission in life, I really want to help you to make that shift from the bind of perfectionism into a desire for excellence. You know, the Bible has lots of great things to say about excellence. Paul says in Philippians chapter 4, he says, if there's any excellence, think on these things. And excellence means something that's good and has high value and high standards. So we're supposed to be people of excellence. And, you know, especially if you're a Christian, you know, I really hate it when Christians in industry or work or the arts or in speaking always kind of hide behind second-rate stuff because we're Christians. We should be first-rate stuff. We should be really the best stuff out there because we've got the help of God, and we should have great standards, and we should run the best businesses and have cool families that are real but are doing well, and we should be successful, not struggling. Everybody struggles, but we should really have standards because we've got a resource in God's love and His grace and His truth and His ways that the world doesn't have. So excellence is a good thing. And don't hide behind being second rate, or don't hide behind God to excuse second rate. We need to have great lives. So let's take you through the difference between excellence and perfectionism. And here's the first thought about that. We're not talking about going from 100% to 90%. That's not the solution of saying, you know, you're just too much 100%. You got to make 100 on everything. Be happy with a 90%. I mean, that's kind of part of it, but that's not the real issue. It's not about letting things slide. The real difference is it's really about the difference between. Oops, I'm going to put the tough word first and the good word secondly. Law versus grace. A way of living that is the way of feeling the wrath and the sting of the law on your back and the judgment of thinking that you're not lovable if God isn't pleased and if you haven't kept God happy by obeying all His commands versus a life of grace. You can have really high standards in grace, but you know you're loved one way or the other, and that's the big difference. You know, by nature, by our very nature, ever since the fall with Adam and Eve, we have gravitated. We move towards, we gravitate this way. You can probably identify with this, that there's a part of you that really wants to get your act together before you expose yourself. That really, you know, before you talk to God, you want to kind of clean up your life and make sure that you've, you know, gotten it all straight and you've purged your bad thoughts and all that and made sure you've done everything right. And then you go to God and say, okay, are you happy with me now? That's the law saying you've got to perform to be loved and get your act straight before you are loved. And it's a horrible way to go. It's the way, you know, I'm involved in the small group movement in churches, not only in my own small group, but just working with small groups nationwide. Actually, worldwide, there's a lot going on in small groups. But a lot of people, you'll see, they won't bring their problems to the small group. They'll solve their problems and then come to small group and do show and tell. You know, we had a marriage problem, but it's all good now. You know, we worked it out. Or, you know, our kids were on drugs, but now they're great. Or, you know, we had a financial problem, but it's all solved now. You know, praise the Lord. Where's the brownies? Where's the cookies? Where's the coffee? And that's really horrible. That's living under the law. I remember when I was in seminary, one of my professors said it the best of anybody I've ever heard about the whole perfectionistic dilemma. He said, perfectionism and living under the law is like taking a shower before you take a bath. Now just think about that for a second. Taking a shower before you take a bath. I want to go get cleaned up, but before I get cleaned up, I better get cleaned up, and now I'll go get cleaned up. So that's saying I'm judged, that life is about performance, that life is about making God happy. He's going to be really bugged if I don't have my act together. Grace says, I go to God and say, I give up. I give up. I can't do it. I've got failures in my marriage and in my dating life and with my kids. I've got failures in my behavior. I let myself down with standards I have. I do things I don't want to do. I give up, God. I can't pull this off. Help me. And God's standing on the other side of my inability, kind of waiting for me to move out of the law and saying, you like me now? Into, I give up. That's what he loves. That's where he lives. That's God's orientation in his created design for us, is to say, yeah, I'll be the shower. You don't take a shower before you come to me. I am the shower. Bring the failure to me. Bring the discouragement to me. Bring the problems to me. I give up. So if you gravitated toward, I can do this, work harder, you've got to move to I give up, or you're just going to be miserable all your life. You'll be stuck in the perfectionistic cycle, and it's a horrible way to live. That's why one of my favorite passages is Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. If you're stuck as a perfectionist, you ought to probably read like 2 or 3 times a week for a month and reflect on Romans 7 and then Romans 8:1. Okay? Romans 7, Paul talks about this gravitation toward the law. I do the things I don't want to do. I don't do the things that I do want to do. And he's a Christian writing this. I mean, he's like us. If you're a Christian, he's stuck. He's in jail. He's kind of literally, metaphorically, he's in hell. He's saying, who's going to save me from the body of this death? I feel dead inside. And then he solves it by saying in Romans 8, there's no condemnation. I'm feeling the condemnation, but there's no condemnation if you're in relationship with Christ. So that's the difference. It's not about going from 100% to 90%. It's a whole bigger change of moving from a performance law orientation towards your life to a grace orientation. You're really changing. It's like you're changing your citizenship. You're a citizen of a nation. You're changing from your citizenship and all the papers that say Susie or Sam is a citizen of perfectionistic law. Okay, I'm done with that, and I'm changing my citizenship to grace because I can't do it, and I give up, and I'm going to bring all the dirty stuff to God. That's how you solve the perfectionistic problem. Here's some of the differences also, just to break it down. First is I'm going to always say the law part first or the perfectionism part and then move to the excellence part. So over here, if you're kind of a linear outline person, I'm going to make you happy today. This is the perfectionistic part, and this will be the excellence part, all right? Perfectionists live in demand. Excellent people who are into excellence and grace, live into desire. The demand says, if I mess up, it's all gone. And I must make the top of the grade all the time. I must be the number one in my class. I must not let myself down. And they don't have a goal. They have a demand. People who have desires go, I want to win. I want to do a great job. I want to go back to school. I want to lose weight. I want to, make more money or find my talents or get healthy or whatever I want to do. But I have these desires. Demand says, if I don't do this, I am in real serious trouble. Now, look at the two. Which would you rather live under? I really want this to happen, or if I don't happen, it's all over. This is the judge talking to you. And I can't tell you how much this affects people's performance. Like when I work with people who are high performers, there's a little graph here where people who are under the law, the perfectionistic part, they'll go for a period of time, high behavior and high performance and low performance, and here's time, over a period of years in their life or months in their life. And if you're a perfectionist, you start here, and over time you can't sustain it, and it drops. People who have like excellence, sometimes they start lower, but they end up higher because the desire drives them, and they learn things and all this sort of good thing. But the demand just gets you discouraged. It's like if you got a mule. I mean, I come from the South, right? We had mules, and you hit that mule and you beat that mule and you beat that mule and tell that mule to walk down the road. It'll kind of jostle it to go, but after a while you beat that mule enough, and what it does, it just lies down the road and says, "Kill me." I'm done. Just kill me. If this is the way it's going to be. And that's how people feel inside over time. It doesn't work. The demand doesn't work. So number one, what's going to drive things? The demand that you've got to be this way and you have to be this way and you should this way, or desire of I want to be better. I want to do better. I want to knock the top off. I want to be a good tennis player. I want to be a good speaker. I want to start a new ministry, right? Second thing is all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking versus a continuum. All or nothing thinking is a little bit like black and white thinking, not quite the same thing. But people that are perfectionistic based think of things as, it's either win, go big or go home, like they say. And what that means is that for them, it's either I get it all right or I'm a horrible person. I do it perfectly or something's wrong with me. I am a loser, or I'm not really serious about my faith, or I never had it in me. And all or nothing thinking is just kind of like I go from 100 to 0 overnight or in a second. And a continuum, you go 100 all the way down to 0 over time. There's 90, there's 80, there's 70, there's 20. It's a continuum. So you perform better and you meet goals better and you meet challenges and you can, grow in areas because, okay, that was like an 80. I can do better than that. And here's what I learned from it. But the all or nothing will stop you because if you think all or nothing, the fear of the failure of losing it all just kind of like paralyzes you. You can't do things well if it's all or nothing thinking. I've got everything to lose. It's sort of like a perfectionist has a switch in their head. It's this way or this way. I've got it all or I'm a total loser. And a person who's into excellence and grace just goes, I made a 70, made a 40. That wasn't really good. Whenever I work with my people in my coaching program, I have them rate their month because we meet once a month, and they have to put we got a big flip chart piece of paper on the wall, and when they come in, and I have a list that says, put your name here and put your personal life here, rate your personal life from 1 to 10 this month. How are your relationships and your behavior and your deeper people in your life, and how is your performance life, how's your work life, and then how you doing your homework. 3 areas, because I always give homework. And it's 1 to 10. And 10 means great month, everything's great. 1 means really, really horrible. I need to work on this today. I've got some problems. And if anybody comes in with all 3 10s, the group sort of says, you're in denial. Come on. Every now and then you have 3 10s, but not very much because life is life. But there's no shame when somebody hits a 4 or a 5. The rest of the group is so kind of cool to see the group that says, how can we help? What's going on? How's the marriage going? Or what's going on with your work? Was the financial issue? And they move toward that 4 and they move toward that 5 and they want to help. They don't go, loser. They feel more love and help and compassion. That's why you need that continuum. All right. Here's another very important one. Someone's got to be punished if you're a perfectionist. Someone is punished. In excellence, it's as usual, if you've been watching this for a while, I tend to mess up on this. This is great. We're talking about perfectionism, and I'm just failing radically in front of you, and I just hope that you love me and are friends with me and aren't judging me, and I won't judge myself, and I'll have a great time. All right? I didn't do this on purpose to teach you. I really am screwing up. We're all okay. Someone's punished with perfectionism. With excellence, we're still all okay. Perfectionists have a tendency to either drive themselves and punish themselves, or they punish other people. They can't feel their own failure because there's no way to metabolize and neutralize failure and feel okay with it. So they either beat themselves up terribly and say things like, what an idiot you are, there you go again, you'll never make it, or they will project that on other people. And they're always mad at other people. And they're always disappointed in other people. And they're always let down by other people. And they're always kind of scratching their heads, why are they doing this? And most of the time it's because they can't tolerate that judge within themselves. Working with a couple where the husband had that kind of perfectionist judge. And whenever his wife would, I don't know, say something he didn't like or let him down or whatever, or when he would make mistakes in the marriage, she was always the brunt of it. And I had to work really hard at confronting him on that and saying, it's not always her, because he would say, well, the reason I had a bad day is because she's not supportive enough. No, sure, certainly she was with the kids, but also you came in with these expectations. Don't blame her. Or he'd say, if she really listened to me enough and agreed with what I'm saying, then everything will be okay. No, it's because you're judging her. And he really didn't like it when I would say that, but we found out, as you always do find out, way in his background, there was a very, very harsh mother. Actually, his mother was very harsh. And she let him down a lot. And she judged him a lot. And he couldn't take it. So he had to find people out there to offload all that judgment and offload all that condemnation and offload all the critical stuff that he felt toward himself because he could not tolerate it. I didn't blame him for not tolerating it, but I did blame him for putting it on his wife. People in excellence, we're all friends. I screwed up, you screwed up, great. Let's go get a K-cup and have a good cup of coffee. Here in the studio, I've got friends here that we drink K-cup coffee because we're all coffee addicts, and it's part of life, right? Sure, they'll find out some research one day that it's going to kill us, but haven't done it yet. So we're all okay. We make mistakes and we're all okay. So someone's punished if there's a perfectionism problem. With excellence, we're all okay. Hey, I'll help you up, dust you off, pat you on the back, and let's keep going. And then the final difference is that with perfectionism, you repeat mistakes over and over and over again. With excellence, we learn and we change. Hey, what kind of life do you want to have? Do you want a life of, oh gosh, here I am again. I learned the same mistake I made in relationships, with my money, with my career. I am getting fat again. I'm not working out. I'm not reading my Bible. Here I go again. What an idiot. Try harder. That's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to repeat your mistakes. You're going to be in the cycle of the law. The law keeps you in a cycle. You're like a hamster in that little wheel, and who says, am I getting anywhere yet? No. You're active, but you're not getting anywhere. That wheel's just going faster. That's what the law does. That's what perfectionism does. When people are into excellence, they go, what did I learn from that? How can I change? And I have a different life next year, and I have different problems, and I've moved, and I'm out of that treadmill. Now, hamsters don't have treadmills. It's whatever that thing is. But I'm different, and I'm changing. Hey, this is not a hard call. I don't want a life of demands and all or nothing, and someone's always getting punished, me or other people, and I repeat my mistakes. What a horrible life. I want to feel desire. I don't want to feel continuum, that I can make a 40 and you still love me, and I can make an 80 and I'm okay, and we're all okay anyway, and I can learn and change. So that's the good parts of it. Let me give you some skills now so that you can, operationalize and actionalize and have some movement about this, because guys, change doesn't happen just in your head. It's got to happen in your head, but it's also got to happen in your experience. The research just talks about that. The neurology research, the performance research. You got to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty and do something, and really good things happen. That's why you always need skills. First thing is identify and deal with the harsh voice. If you're a perfectionist, there's a mean voice inside you. It might have come from mom or dad or a teacher or an authority figure or a coach or a Girl Scout leader or a Boy Scout leader or a spouse or a boss or somebody, but you got to renounce it. That's what I mean by deal with it. You've got to renounce it and say, you were wrong. It was mean of you to do that. That's not a good thing. I renounce your power over me. That doesn't solve it all, but it starts to take the power out of the harsh voice. That's my dad talking again. That's my ex talking again. Renounce it. It's not right. Take the power away. Secondly, I want you to, if you're struggling with this and you want to grow in this, I want you to bring 3 failures to grace. This week, I want you to bring 3 failures to grace and receive loving and warm feedback. Not just with God, but with people that care about you. And if you don't ever fail, we've got some medication for you. Be glad to get it for you. Because everybody fails, right? Instead of taking a shower before you take a bath, break 3 failures. I let myself down again. I went home and ate 2 bags of Cheetos and I was going to work out. I really felt like a screw up. Or I yelled at my kids. Or I let that guy have power over me and I kind of went his way when I should have said no to him. Or, I didn't do a good job at work and I feel bad about that. Talk about those with some grace-filled people who have no condemnation. That doesn't work if you have judging people in your life. And receive good and warm feedback. You know what that does? It neutralizes the harshness. Grace and love and support and advice neutralize that harshness of that judge in your life that's saying, there you go again. You'll never make it. You're disappointing everybody. The world's going to fall apart because of you. And it neutralizes the power of it so that voice in your head says, yeah, you made a mistake. We'll learn from it. It's a big deal, but we have some steps for you. I'd rather have that voice in my head than the harsh judge. So you got to get that from people. Third is, I think this is really helpful. Write out the benefits of failure. Perfectionists just are what we call failure avoidant. They either try not to too much or they want to hide it when they do it. Write out the benefits of failure. If you look at any kind of performance research from great athletes to great singers and great business people and great people in the ministry, they'll all tell you, it's a good thing and here's what I learned from failure. So write out the benefits, things like I learned from it and I change and I'm a better person and I'm toughened up and I got, I see more things in myself than I didn't see. But it helps it's kind of an envisioning statement to say, this is good for me. And then letter D, do your best and celebrate your excellence. I don't mean in some kind of self-worship way, but celebrate it when you just ring the bell and do a really good job, even when it's not perfect. Do your best at work, or have a great day as a parent, or have a great date, or do something great with your spouse, and then celebrate it that this wasn't perfect, it was great. One of my sons changed schools in college recently. He went from a college that wasn't as hard to a college that was much harder. And he did really well in the college that wasn't very hard. He, not 4.0, but close. And then he gets to the tougher school because that was kind of the dream school, the one he really wanted to be at, but he wanted to go to the smaller school first that was not as hard to get him ready, which I thought was a good strategy. And he got in there and he, when first semester grades came out, I was always, I'm the dad, I'm always a little bit worried. Said, okay, how'd you do at big school, tough school, first semester? And he'd made a 3.0, okay? And we had a party. I was so proud of him. He was proud of himself. Now, if it had been the perfectionistic law, would have been, you didn't make a 4.0, and B, you dropped down almost one full grade from 3.8 to 3.0. What are we going to do? Who's going to save me from the body of this death? But over here on the excellence side, we went, you moved. We helped you move in. You had to make new friends and find new social settings, get reacclimated, get the culture of the school, drive around and all this. And you had a tough school and you made that grade. We are happy. Now, I know there's some people out there have kids a lot smarter than we do, and you're probably a lot smarter than we are, and God bless you. We want you to keep making those 4.5s. We need that because you're going to write great research papers and do things. We're kind of happy with that 3.0. You may have somebody who's a 3.0 and they went to a 2.0. But if they're doing okay, that's great. So have a party when somebody's excellent, even if they're not perfect. Okay, a couple of questions for you. First, how have you misunderstood excellence and perfectionism? How have you morphed the two ideas when they're not the same idea and it kind of took some life away from you? Have you said, I've got high standards, like my example in the beginning of the talk, and really it wasn't high standards, it was perfectionism. And how's that affected you? Did you lose relationships? Did you lose time? Did you lose opportunities? I always ask that sort of misery question, not because I want you to feel, I do want you to feel misery, but not because I don't like you, because I want you to grow and feel a certain amount of motivation and pain to say, I don't want what happened in perfectionism anymore. I want excellence. So how have you misunderstood and what's it cost you? Oh, sorry. That was my second question, is what does it cost you? Another great example of making mistakes is solutions. But, we're all under grace here, aren't we? So it has cost you something. So identify with question number 1, how you misunderstood them, and number 2 is what's it cost you. So you kind of get incentivized. Number 3, in what area of life can you begin shifting to the freedom of excellence this week? In what area of life can you begin to make that change from we're all okay, from all or nothing and the judgment and the demand and all that to we're all okay, we're learning. Do you need to do that in your parenting or in your dating life or in your, I've got a behavioral struggle, I've got an addiction I need to deal with, or in my job or your business? Target an area and say, I'm going to be celebrating excellence this week. So hope that's good for you, because God really wants to get us out of the law into grace. Change and transformation happen only when we're out of the jail of the law into love and grace, where we can make the mistakes and learn the lessons, and then things get a lot better. So God bless you guys, and see you next week.
For more Solutions recordings or other personal and spiritual growth products by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, visit our website at cloudtownsend.com or call 800-676-HOPE.